Hi, hello, welcome. This is the interview with Dani Cutts, an interior designer from Baukultur in South Australia. This clip was used to put together the full-length documentary Behind Closed Doors, The Life of an Architect. If you're thinking of entering the architecture or interior profession, you've got to see it. That link is going to be up above or in the description below to check that out. But without further ado, let's get on with the interview.
Okay, so I'm Dani Cutts and I am an interior designer and have been part of the Baukultur team since day one, which is a very exciting time. But I'm one of two interiors in the company, so that between the two of us we tag team. I love the fact that there's no hard and fast about what we do every day. As an interior designer, I mean, obviously the predictable answer would be, we're choosing furniture and, designing pretty colours and things like that, but there's so much more to it. On a day-to-day basis, we chop and change between going out and meeting with clients from a BD perspective or from a project management perspective, working through anything from initial concepts with clients all the way through to completion. So one of my major, I'm probably jumping the gun a bit here, but one of my major projects at the moment is probably almost overlapping into architecture rather than interiors. Working on the base building upgrade for the BICE building down at Lot 14. That's been something that I've been very heavily involved with since its conception back at Hassel. So I was sort of there for the initial interview with the client, which was nice, and then once we were awarded the project, then moved through into concept and now finally on site and seeing it all come to light, which is exciting. But I suppose in answer to your question, what's my role at Baukultur? All and sundry. Yeah, so interior design first and foremost though. So yep.
So how long have you been in the profession for?
I graduated from UniSA in 2011. So where are we now? 2021. So 10 years. Is that right? Yeah. Coming on 10 years. I should have graduated in 2010 though. I had an elective where I went to Milan to showcase the furniture pieces that we did as part of our final year studio. Rather than graduating on time with everyone else in 2010, I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to go and do that. So in theory I actually graduated 2011, which is about 9.5 years ago. So it was a fantastic opportunity. We're over there for the Milan Furniture Fair. Just a really great introduction to the industry, I think. Getting that experience from going overseas and seeing what the world has to offer was just, profound. So, yeah.
How long is the interior design course? Is that 3 years?
When I did it was 4 years, and that's combined with honours in the 4th year. Yeah. So, I think there was talk of doing a 3 and 2 split, but when I went through it was 4 years straight. I took a year off after school and then went back and did the straight run 4 years in a row, and then basically straight into the profession, which I found was good for me. I needed that time after school to just sort of, go out and do my own thing for a minute before bogging down and getting straight into the workforce. So I'm glad I took the time, and then here I am, so many years later. Yeah, it's been a good 10 years and good 4 years at uni. I thoroughly enjoyed the degree. Whether it prepared me for the profession, I think it's... Yeah. Okay, I'll hold off. I'll wait for that one then. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, the next question was, when you're not in the office, what kind of things do you enjoy working on? Do you have any hobbies outside of interior design / architecture?
It's probably well timed you asking that question, because I feel like we've all just gone through this process of setting up our portfolios and CVs as part of the Baukultur process. I mean, I'm very passionate about being active outside of work. Travel's one thing, but actually getting out, and I've been on numerous holidays where we've gone skiing, hiking, all sorts of outdoorsy things. I mean, I love getting out with nature, which is fantastic. I've recently found a new passion in that when I say we, me and my husband, we've moved to a new house, 1920s home. I guess our new passion is now, working on that. So there's a lot of time spent at the moment getting home and coming up with all sorts of wacky and wonderful ideas about where we could take the house, what we can do with it. It's left not much time for anything else at the moment, but it's all fun, and it's exciting that finally I can work on my own thing, and I think we spend so many years designing for others and sort of forget about what it's like to design for yourself. You're almost your worst client, really, because you're trying to land on something that you're happy with is impossible, and and, you know, being surrounded by so many nice things all the time, like, I mean, furniture like this room, yeah, it's becomes more of a challenge, exactly. I've always loved art and music as well. And again, it's finding the time to do it. Done a bit of painting over the years, which stems from high school, but all the way through university, I was always trying to do things more by hand than by computer. To this day, I still love it. You know, there's nothing better than getting behind a canvas and just experimenting with different colours and painting or pencil or whatever. But I say all of this and I probably haven't picked up a pencil in, you know, I'd say probably a year or so, but I love it. And the same goes for, you know, a bit of music here and there, bashing around on the keyboard occasionally. I mean, there's a lot more loves in my life, but, you know, for now that's probably a good enough answer.
I feel like a key thing with the office here at Baukultur is a lot of people, pretty much everyone's super active.
Yes.
And then love the outdoors.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? I mean, it makes sense that we gel so well because of that. You know, it's a really nice family aspect in terms of just having so many people with similar interests. Outdoors is there's such a broad range of different types of activities that people love here. You know, you've got the guys that are the cyclists, you've got the surfies, I'm probably more of your, I've always loved running. It's a really good overlap of activities, but I think at the end of the day it does help to bind us all together. Similar interests, obviously. So, but you're right. Yes, there are a lot of active people in this office. Yeah. yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how well did you think your education prepared you for what you're doing today?
Okay, maybe like a 7 or an 8 out of 10. I don't think any course is ever going to properly prepare you for the real world. The beauty of interior architecture, the course that I did, was that it was so hands-on and it was so out there and experimental. And although we maybe started talking about client budgets and things like that, that really the world was your oyster and you had so much chance to push the boundaries and just do what you wanted, which I think in a sense was a really good tool to have, because it meant that, you know, getting into the profession, you aren't jaded by things like budgets, programs, fees, all of that sort of thing. Obviously, there's an element of reality that would have been probably a bit more helpful if we'd learned about that. I was quite young at the time. I think if I went back and did that same degree now, it'd be a different scenario altogether coming out, because I think also life experience has a lot to do with that. As an 18 or 19-year-old going into uni versus a 33-year-old going into uni, there's two very different things, you know. I think it prepared me as best it could. One thing I would say about the interior architecture course is I feel like there could have been a lot more emphasis on the importance of work experience. And I ended up working in my final year at an architecture practice, and I think that was just so beneficial. You learn so many skills when it comes to documentation, for one, you know, and how to apply that knowledge into the real world. There's a lot of stuff that the interior architecture course brushed on when it comes to, you know, contractual knowledge, all that sort of thing, which I think, I'm not sure whether the architecture course did it, but would I have taken it in if there was more? I probably would have got bored. So I'm not even sure if adding any more of the technical side of things in terms of understanding how contracts work, the technical aspects of documentation, or like just that next layer of information that you learn once you're on the job. I don't know if adding more of that into the course would have been beneficial, or really it goes back to my point about work experience and, you know, learning so much from an employer. That really helped me through final year, because I understood a lot more and I was able to apply that knowledge rather than just take it for face value. So I think, look, yes, it did prepare me for the real world as best it could. I think I was 22 when I finished, so, you know, I think I was ready for whatever at that stage, no matter how good or bad the course was, maybe. Yeah.
If you could sum up your experiences of your interior design course in, say, one word or a couple of keywords or a sentence, how would you go about doing that?
It was challenging. Yeah, but in a good way. Yeah, like I think there was long hours involved. I'm going on, you said one sentence. Let's go with challenging. Yeah. Yeah.
In the morning, when you first wake up and you first get into the office, do you have any morning rituals or routines, or do you kind of just get stuck into it?
No, I'm a rusher in the mornings. I'm always running late. I don't have time for rituals. I think my ritual is make sure I've eaten breakfast before I've left the house. I'm very routine driven in the mornings, and I suppose in a sense that's kind of a ritual, isn't it? Like, I would get up, shower, breakfast. I've taken to trying to make sure that I actually sit down and eat breakfast now, because I know for years I've never sat down and allowed myself the time to do that. Trying to sit down more because I've got a nice backyard that I can look at now rather than, the apartment next door. But yeah, look, it's not a serious ritual. I mean, I think it's, if anything, I'm just very routine driven, and that's more about efficiencies and just trying to get out of the house as quickly as possible.
You're not like a coffee person, and like you have to have a coffee first thing in the morning?
No, I do like a coffee when I get to the office. So I think that's where my rituals probably do start. Like at the moment I get into the office and I open the computer, check things, and then probably, within half an hour, make a coffee. But no, I'm not one that wakes up and has to have a coffee. I'm very conscious of not becoming that person as well. I think it's a very easy thing to get sucked into. Not that it's a bad thing, but it's one less thing to do in the morning. Yeah, exactly.
Then during the day, what are some of the most common activities you're working on, or what do you spend your time doing during the day?
Depends on what projects we've got going and what stage they're in. I'm very desk-based at the moment, other than a site visit once a week. Just trying to jump between projects, spend a bit of time chatting with clients, consultants, navigating your way through project issues, that sort of thing, and resolving things both on site or whether you're in design phase. Last week actually I finished up with the display suite for one of our projects. I was down there a little bit, so it's always nice when you've got something that gets you out of the office a little bit as well, because otherwise, you try and break up your day by, going for a walk at lunch at least. And I'm getting better at this, eating lunch away from the desk rather than sitting at the desk. Some days it can't be helped. Obviously, if you are very much 100% at the desk, just trying to sort of break it up with little trips to the coffee machine or, making sure you take a phone call with a client and actually stepping away. Like I came in here the other day and had a product presentation with one of our reps from Sydney who can't make it to Adelaide at the moment, and ended up just sitting on the couch here and putting her on Teams. I think it's just the little things like that just help to sort of break the day up a little bit. Otherwise it becomes a bit relentless. Being 100% desk-based is challenging, having the ability to get out and also like if suppliers have new products to show us, which is a huge part of interior design. If we do have the opportunity, can we actually get out of the office and go and visit their showroom, for example, rather than having them come here and present on a screen to us. Being able to see physical samples of things is so important.
What do you enjoy most about the things you do here?
Good question. I enjoy what I'm doing at the moment, which is the site component, managing the build and getting to the point where you can actually see the physical result of what you've spent so much time working on, particularly if it has been a job that you've been on from the get-go. I do love the client aspect of things as well, being able to either meet new clients, talk with existing clients, chatting with people in the industry. Yeah, I love the collaboration side of things and the people aspect. It's always really inspiring to get out and listen to what other people have to say. And then also, I guess, just the resolution around design. Once you've got an idea, then sort of getting to the nitty-gritty of actually making it work, seeing how you can resolve all of the detail and have a result that everyone's happy with, not just you, but the client and all the stakeholders, that sort of thing. So yeah, it is. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So then on the flip side, what do you enjoy the least about being interior design?
The occasional long hours, although it hasn't been too bad this year. I feel like it's been a lot worse in the past. Probably dates back to I was in Melbourne for 5 years working over there, and I think the long hours in that and the time and stress involved with that I didn't love, even though the reward at the end was so good. I've got a love-hate relationship with all the admin side of things. It's the sort of thing that gets out of control, but once you've done it, it's satisfying. The day-to-day tasks of keeping up to date with all sorts of filing things to do with each project and that sort of thing, and my own worst enemy when it comes to keeping folders neat and being able to find things again.
How would you put what you do on a day-to-day basis on a scale of 1 to 10?
I would say at the moment it's up there, like 8, 9 out of 10. Yeah. I think it comes down to the people that you're working with as well. I mean, this year's been as shitty a timing. It's been, starting a new thing in COVID. There was so much uncertainty, but I think I'm really enjoying where I'm at the moment. I feel like this is a plug for the guys. They're just going to look at this later and think, who said what? Like job satisfaction. I do enjoy it. I think there's been times in my career where I've questioned whether it's the right direction for me, and I explored a few years back the option of getting out and going and working for the builder side, getting more into management, and that came as a result of being based on site for so many years on a project. I sort of thought I really enjoyed that side of it, but in hindsight, looking back now, I think, no, I'm glad I stuck with design because it's what I really enjoyed doing. Maybe I was just trying to fight it and see if there were other opportunities out there and not just totally restrict myself to being an interior designer. I mean, there's days that you sort of think, oh, here we are again. But yeah, I'd say, 8, 9 out of 10, 80%, 90% of my time, I really do enjoy what I'm doing. So long as it sort of chops and changes. Anything that becomes a little bit too repetitive, then you start to sort of not enjoy it as much. But at the moment, it seems to be dynamic enough that there's, enough to keep me interested, and let's go with that. Yeah.
What are some of the challenges you face being an interior designer?
Budgets, particularly in Adelaide. Aligning client expectations with budget, with time, like all of that sort of thing can be challenging at times. Not to say that doesn't make it, that makes it unenjoyable. I think that, if anything, that it makes it more of a challenge. Unrealistic deadlines. Sometimes we keep agreeing to things to appease the client, which, is a good thing. I guess it comes down to the relationship with the client a little bit as well, whether we are trying to impress or trying to work with or just trying to get the best outcome, all those sort of things. It's one thing that I think clients sometimes really underestimate is the amount of time it takes to do things. And I think we are getting better at saying, well, no, actually, we need more time. I think over the years I've definitely struggled with that in terms of unrealistic deadlines, for sure. We've got an amazing client base, but sometimes we just don't have the budgets for what we want to try and achieve, so you've got to go about it in a different way, which I think in itself is quite interesting as well, to see what we're capable of coming up with to suit whatever the client dream is, but being realistic about what they can and can't afford. And that was difficult coming back to Adelaide after working in Melbourne, because I think, Melbourne's obviously got a healthier climate over there when it comes to, and also the appreciation of design, I think, which Adelaide is getting a lot better at. I think there's a huge appreciation for it now. It is difficult trying to talk people into the importance of interior design and when they don't really understand it.
If you go back to when you first started, I guess, thinking back to maybe your first year of uni, is there anything that you would have changed, or would you have any advice for you yourself?
Don't drink as much. No, yeah, exactly. Don't have as much fun. I think I would like to tell myself to be a bit more organised earlier. Like, I'm very much a last minute person, and I've always been like that. And whether that would have been something I wanted to hear back then, I don't know. Time management skills are something that you cannot underestimate the importance of them. If I'd been more careful about getting things done and not wasting time and getting distracted by anything but university work, and the same goes for now. I'm very much one to just drag my heels until right at the last minute and then pull an all-nighter, And I wish I was better at that. I think go back to the work experience thing, getting out in the profession earlier. Like to have seen myself do that throughout university rather than going straight into working in pubs and things, which I think is also necessary. You've obviously got to support yourself throughout uni. I think the long hours was something that I wished I'd known. You can only prepare yourself so much for the long hours that you pull at uni. And whether it's I like to think that it'll get better. My 4 years at uni were, every studio was last minute, and it wasn't just me, it was all of us. We were in, you'd spend hours, how it is, you'd spend hours on end at the last week just pulling together all this stuff. And why didn't I listen to the tutors in the first week or two and actually try then, instead of just getting distracted and finding other things to do, being a bit more cognizant of doing things earlier rather than all this last minute rush. One of the biggest things that I've enjoyed about my career was going and getting experience outside of Adelaide. I love being back in Adelaide, and I think it's such a great city to be part of, but I just think experience overseas, interstate, wherever, it's so necessary, you know, and being able to learn from different companies. I've had 3 or 4 different bosses over my time, which have been, and when I say bosses, it's probably more companies, really. I've worked for a few different companies, and just getting different perspectives, and really, I think that has helped to shape me as a designer. I remember getting asked, would have been like maybe my first or second interview for a job, what is my design aesthetic? And I think at that point I really had no idea. I don't even think I fully understood what that meant. You know, so trying to answer something like that, go back and, you know, my second year in the profession was impossible. Just having had that all-rounder experience from the myriad of different people I've worked with has helped to shape me as a designer. And so I now, you know, I'm a lot more confident about what it is that I like. I'm a lot more confident in certain areas of the profession as well, and I can, you know, confidently talk about things. And maybe you would get that same experience from working in one practice, I'm not sure. That's not what I've done. So I think I'm speaking from my own experience and saying that, yeah, I think I've really benefited from getting out there and working with different teams in different places of the world. I just think that's a massive thing that I would definitely recommend, for sure. Yep.
It's been a common one. Can't really go travel now.
Oh, absolutely. You've got to. Like, it's just, I mean, this year's probably not great for travel, but, you know, I think absolutely get out there. And I mean, travel in itself is just so necessary. And regardless of whether you're working for a company interstate or overseas or just locally, being able to travel, absolutely. You know, there's just so many incredible instances of design overseas, and, you know, they live and breathe it. Whereas we're so young in Australia, you know, we're starting to get it, but just the way that design, I mean, it rules their lives over in Europe. You know, everything they do comes back to first principles of design. We're still learning that here, so I think to get out and learn and visually see things and understand, you know, going and seeing works in Italy that have been there for years and years and years, and the way that design just translates into every little minor detail of every space, it's just profound. So yes, absolutely, you've got to travel. Yeah.
I will.
Yeah.
How bloody cool was that? If you haven't checked out the full-length film Behind Closed Doors, The Life of an Architect, you've got to set some time aside for that, because it's pretty incredible what some of these guys have to share with you, some information and resources that will be really helpful if you're thinking about studying architecture or you just want to get an insight into the profession. So if you want to check that out, you can click that button to the side here, or if you just want to go on with the next interview, check out that button to the side there. Catch you there.